All right, guys, we're going to have some fun today. Oh, man, I decided to do a live stream with you guys today because there's just too much going on. This is just too much fun. We're getting close to the election. We're just a couple of weeks away, so we have plenty of time to rest. It's not now. We got to get going here. So greetings, you guys, as you come on in. Hey, G-Shell, what's up, doctor? Hey, good to see you, man. Great to see you. Yeah, come on in, guys. It's going to be, we're going to have a fun time today. Biden and the media are getting very, very nervous, and it is starting to show. This is the latest bombshell revelations about Hunter Biden's his hard drive being found, and his lawyers wanting the hard drive returned. Which is, of course, an admission that this was Hunter Biden's computer. This is blowing up. This is huge. And it's amazing because you've got this total blackout by the mainstream media, which I think is proof that they're nervous. They're very nervous, and they know this could sink the Biden campaign once and for all. And I really want to kind of go over that with you, sort of the stories that I've been collecting today that all really show the same thing. They're all showing the fact that Biden is getting very, very nervous. He's snapping at reporters. You probably saw that the other night. He freaked out at Bo Erickson of CBS for even raising the question because, of course, at the ABC town hall, not a single question from George Stephanopoulos about Hunter Biden's emails. Can you just imagine if this were reversed, if this were Trump, and we found out that he was making all this money from Russia, for example, forget, Ukraine and China. So Biden is obviously getting very nervous. He's getting very scared here, and the media is getting very scared. And I want to go over that with you. All right, you're all coming on in. All right, 1.7 thousand. All right, great. Great to see everybody. It's great to see you guys. I love chatting with you, going back and forth. Again, forgive me. I still have yet to figure out how to make this feed, the comments feed, go slower on my end. Maybe one of you guys can show it to me, shoot me an email or something. A couple of housekeeping things before we talk about Biden and the media getting very, very nervous. And now it's starting to show. As you can see, we got some awesome merch here. I'm looking at my camera. This is our Sleepy Joe shirts that we have available at the link down below. So make sure you get these as soon as you can, because I don't think we're going to be making them anymore after November 3rd. So these are a limited time offer item here. So I've got my Sleepy Joe t-shirt on. We've got lots of cool merch that you can get down below and help support this channel that way. And also I want to invite you personally to our special On the Brink benefit concert that we have, our conference that we have coming up in 2 weeks from today. It's on October 31st. It is a virtual conference, and it's going to help you think better and therefore feel better about November 3rd and beyond. So we're going to discover what's behind the rise of a new conservative age, how to really understand what's going on here, how nationalism and globalism are clashing like never before, and that clash is going to go beyond November 3rd, whatever happens there. And why nationalist populism is absolutely unstoppable, why it has all the leverage, and why globalism, yes, is beginning to wane. It is beginning to fade quite literally all over the world. Now, I believe the early bird special registration discount is over. I think yesterday was the last day, so you have to go and check. But just go ahead and click on the link to the On the Brink benefit conference. We are benefiting a food ministry, a food pantry that Ivanka Trump visited in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So you'll be happy to know you'll be supporting some wonderful things like that. And I really look forward to seeing you and meeting you virtually in a couple of weeks. Make sure you sign up for that conference. It's going to be cool. It's a nice way to spend a Saturday. All right, so let's get in here. Hey, Sec, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Lisa, was that Lisa I caught as well? Thank you guys for those super chats. They mean everything. Thank you. All right, so Biden is getting nervous. We saw this with CBS's Bo Erickson. And I want to get into why he's nervous. It's not just the email revelations, although those are heating up. We're going to go over the latest revelations that we've seen thus far and why Biden is going to eventually have to answer for them, and the media is going to have to cover for him, or is going to have to cover it. It's already covering for him, right? It's not just that, it's also the polls. And we're beginning to see, it's becoming more and more apparent that this is 2016 all over again, okay? And I'm sipping some nice Americano coffee that I learned to love when I was in Verona, Italy. Just espresso with a little cream and water. It is a little extra water in there, just awesome. It's 2016 all over again. Now, what do I mean by that? We're seeing a massive discrepancy between the polling being pushed by the mainstream media on the one hand, and how people are actually voting on the other. So that's what you have to get. It's 2016 all over again in terms of the massive discrepancy between polling that's being pushed by the mainstream media, with the Democrat, of course, infinitely ahead on the one hand, and how people are actually voting on the other. So, for example, I don't know how many of you know this, but if you want to know what to expect on November 3rd, no incumbent has ever lost the general election after receiving 75% or more of the votes in their party's primaries. Okay, so you have the primaries in the same year that you have the general election, and those primaries are like the election in microcosm, and we get to actually see how people are actually voting in the primaries. Okay, so forget opinion polls. Here's how, opinion polls mean nothing after the vote, right? All the opinion polls that we saw in 2016 meant nothing on November 9th. Okay. So when you look at the primaries and you have an incumbent running, and if that incumbent gets 75% or more of the votes from their party in the primaries, we have never had that incumbent go on to lose the general election. No incumbent has ever bettered their challenger in the primaries and then gone on to lose in the general election. It's not happened. Okay. This is why Helmut Norpoth of Stony Brook University, who's given us the single most accurate prediction model, forecasting model of all. He's forecasted rightly 25 of the last 27 elections going all the way back to 1912. This is why he gives Trump a 91% chance of winning re-election with over 360 electoral votes. So he's pointed out no sitting president with a superior performance in the primaries as compared to his opponent has ever gone on to lose the general election. So here's actual elections kind of written in stone, as it were, for what we can expect on November 3rd. What we can expect is a 91% chance of Trump winning re-election based not on opinion polls, but based on actual votes, right? So we have actual voting data derived from a comparison with primary elections and general elections, replete with actual winners, and the results could not possibly be more discrepant from what we're hearing regarding the opinion polls that are being peddled with glee, I may add, by the mainstream Marxist media. Here's another discrepancy. If Biden were really up by 14 points over Trump, okay, if these polls that are being pushed by the mainstream media were true, Biden would be on the cusp of the single biggest Democrat blowout since FDR beat Herbert Hoover in 1932. That would best FDR's fourth term election in 1944, when we were celebrating the end of World War II in Europe and the end of the Depression. That would beat Obama's blowout over McCain in 2008. That's what a 14-point lead over Trump would mean. Have you noticed nobody in the media is talking about that? Have you noticed that? Nobody in the media, not a single pundit in the mainstream media, it has been bold enough to argue for that kind of scenario, since it's obviously beyond credulity. It's absurd, especially when you compare the two rallies, the rallies of the two candidates. When you look at a Trump rally versus a Biden, can you even call it a rally? Can you call Biden's, what do you even call them? I guess events? Are they even events? What's eventful about them? There's no news being made. So there's no, I mean, you've got Trump rallies that are attracting tens of thousands of people. I saw it with my own eyes in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a couple of weeks back. Tens of thousands of people are coming out to Trump rallies, right? I think a total, the one study found that it was over 250,000 people have come out since Labor Day to see Trump. And a total of like 84 have come out to see Biden. Nobody comes out to see Biden anymore. I don't even know why I say anymore. They never did. This was obvious from this was obvious from the primaries. The primaries, Biden was the embarrassing candidate. Nobody wanted to vote for him. They certainly didn't want to vote for him in Iowa or New Hampshire or Nevada or Texas. It was only when the establishment got behind him, when everyone, Klobuchar and all, started dropping out and endorsing him, because they were convinced that Bernie would be a disaster and at least Biden would be the least disaster. He would lose the least among among either him or Bernie. So, I mean, obviously he was not somebody that the Democratic Party wanted. And we can see why. There's no excitement whatsoever coming from Biden at all. So if he really were up 14 points, we would obviously be seeing that not just in the glee, the celebratory nature of the media saying this is going to be the biggest blowout since FDR in 1932, which they're not saying, but we would also be seeing it in the rallies. You'd have comparable rallies. You have your tens of thousands coming out, just like we saw with Obama. Remember, Obama in 2008, McCain had a hard time getting a crowd too. Okay, he was a pretty flat candidate. Obama, do you remember his rallies? I mean, people were fainting in his rallies. What the media wants us to believe right now is Joe Biden is going to beat that, which is, I mean, what do you even say to that? Moreover, we're beginning to see the shenanigans coming out in terms of the polling methodology. So Steve Deace, who analyzed polls for the Ted Cruz campaign back in 2016, he uncovered manipulation of numbers that's really extraordinarily menacing. He conducted a deep dive of the latest Rasmussen poll. Actually, it was the poll a week ago that had Biden winning by 12. Now Biden's only winning by 5, interestingly enough. But did you catch the polling methodology that he uncovered? We've talked about it in some of our videos. What Deace noticed was that Rasmussen was weighting the poll results with a projection that Trump would only get 76% of the Republican vote. Now, again, just to put that in some kind of historical context, that would be akin to the percentage of vote that George Herbert Walker Bush got back in 1992 when you had a major spoiler candidate, Ross Perot, siphoning off 20% of the vote, the vast majority of which were Republican voters. By contrast, Trump got 88% of the vote in the general election 2016, and that was at the height of the Never Trump movement that the media is trying to bring back. Have you noticed that? They're actually trying to bring back these Never Trumpers. Ben Sass, now of all people, we're finally getting momentum and mojo, as it were, just in general. I think it's already there, but just in general, even the media is starting to collapse under the weight of the Hunter Biden emails. But right when we start getting this kind of mass, mojo here, then there's Ben Sasshole coming on out, Ben Sassy Pants, saying, oh, there's going to be a blue wave. I'm all nervous. Trump sucks. I mean, I just don't, if there is a blue wave, please, God, get rid of Ben Sasse. I don't think he's up for re-election this year, but please get rid of this Nebraska nut. I've had it with this moron here. But alas, anyway, Trump got 88% of the vote, even at the height of the Never Trumper movement, 88% of the Republican vote. And he got 94% of the GOP vote in the most recent primaries, right? So no candidate gets over 70% of their party's primary vote goes on to lose. And Trump got 94%. So that's why he has a 91% chance of re-election. And there is therefore absolutely no excuse on the planet for Rasmussen to predict he's only going to get 76% of Republican voters. But that's what they did. And that's by weighting the poll that way, that's how Biden comes out with these enormous numbers. So something is going on even among the Biden's group, the Biden people. Something's going on, and I'm going over to Fox News for this here. Biden campaign warns against complacency in memo. And listen to this. The Biden campaign sent out a 3-page memo to supporters Saturday warning that President Trump can still win the race and is neck and neck in certain critical battleground states, including Arizona and North Carolina. Jen O'Malley Dillon, Joe Biden's campaign manager, cautioned supporters against complacency, pointing to uncertain polls and lessons learned from Trump's upset win in 2016. Helmut Norpoth, by the way, gave him an 87% chance of winning. The 2016 election gives him a 91% chance this year. The reality is, quote, that this race is far closer than some of the punditry we're seeing on Twitter and on TV would suggest. Quote, close quote, Dillon wrote in a memo. Dillon cautioned that polling showing Biden ahead may not be accurate. Even the best polling, quote, can be wrong, and that variables like turnout mean that in a number of critical swing states, we are fundamentally tied, close quote. That is Joe Biden's campaign manager. So they're starting to get nervous. This is a memo that went out and they clearly began to see this is not working the way CNN and MSNBC wants you to think it's working. And then we have this from the Washington Examiner. Early voting is not helping Joe Biden in battleground states. Now, if you listen to the media, what they're going to tell you is they're going to tell you that, 70% of voting is already done and people have already voted and it's overwhelmingly in Biden's favor because we found out 70% of Democrats are going to be voting by mail. So there's nothing Republicans can do. This is all nonsense. And I think Dick Morris is right. Its basic purpose is to not just discourage Republican voters. It's to discourage people from giving money to the Trump campaign and big time donors. It's there to make them say, it's a waste of your money. Don't give them a dime. So it's there to try to hamstring the Trump campaign. It's not working, but that's what they're trying to do with it. Here's from Washington Examiner. The Republican Party is keeping pace in mail-in and early voting in 3 key swing states, despite polls showing early voting should clearly favor Joe Biden. Data out of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Ohio indicates that registered Republicans are returning ballots at about the same rate as registered Democrats in the battleground states. In Michigan, as of Wednesday, just over 1 million ballots have been returned, 40% from registered Democrats and the same 40% from registered Republicans. In Wisconsin, 40% of the returned ballots have been from Democrats, 38% have been from Republicans. In Ohio, 45% of the early ballot returns are from Republicans, 43% from Democrats. This is huge. Now, if this pattern holds, then the reports that the Biden campaign has been trying to pivot away from mail-in votes to in-person votes could not be more accurate. This is exactly what they're nervous about. They're worried that they're not getting anywhere near the advantage they thought they were going to get in mail-in ballots. In these key states, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, I mean, if this is neck and neck Republican Democrat, this isn't good. And then again, of course, the assumption is all the Democrats are voting Biden. Remember, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, we had nearly 200 counties that voted Democrat in every single presidential election since the 1980s suddenly switch and vote Trump in 2016. They were thoroughly Democrat blue counties, and they switched red. So that's what we're going to be looking at on election night for sure. We're going to be looking at those specific counties that were blue for the last 30 years, then switched red in 2016. We're going to look at where those counties are. Because the counties are that night on November 3rd. The point being, just because you're getting Democrats sending back their mail-in ballots doesn't mean it's necessarily for Joe Biden if they're coming from Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, Pennsylvania, in this case, Ohio as well. So it's very, very interesting stuff going on there as well. So we're beginning to see Biden flip out over the polls. We're beginning to see Biden flip out over the early voting not coming out in his favor. Going over to Florida, I don't know how many of you guys saw this, but the GOP is absolutely killing it in voter registration. This is just in voter registration data. The Democrats have registered 197,821 voters. The GOP has registered 344,465 voters. Now, I want that you can compare that to 2016. In 2016, Hillary Clinton had a net positive of 200. I'm sorry, Hillary Clinton had a net positive of 307,000. I'll just round it off, 308,000 newly registered voters versus the GOP's 274,000. GOP now has even higher numbers than Hillary was able to get with the GOP. They're at 345,000 to the Democrats, 198,000. It's an absolutely astonishing difference and margin. If my math was quick, I'm looking over here. My math was quicker. I could give it to you the numbers, but it's obviously over 140,000-ish or so above what the Democrats are doing. So voter registration, Republicans are absolutely killing it. So we are definitely beginning to see Joe Biden getting very, very nervous when it comes to the polls. The polls are switching well in favor of Trump. And I did mention that. I did mention the Rasmussen poll. We have to keep in mind that Rasmussen poll. That Rasmussen poll that's so skewed towards Biden in that it assumed that only 76% of Republicans are going to vote for Trump. That's how they weighted the poll, even although 94% of Republicans came out and voted for Trump in the primaries. That poll, as weighted as it is against Trump, has Trump gaining 7 points in 1 week. So it gave Biden a 12-point lead 1 week ago. Just a couple of days ago, it gave Biden a 5-point lead. So we're even seeing in some of these fixed polls, Trump soaring, which is really, really neat. But again, my big thing is don't relativize these opinion polls. Opinion polls are fickle. They were no use to us in 2016. If you think it through, they were no use to us. If anything, they worked against us in 2016. They worked against expectations, radically against. So same thing here. We're seeing a massive discrepancy between what opinion polls are purportedly saying, as it were, based on their shenanigans and the like, pushed by the mainstream media, versus how people are actually voting. And when you look at the primaries and when you're looking now at the early mail-in voting, this is looking astonishing right now on behalf of Donald Trump, and Joe Biden is getting very, very nervous. Now, that's the polling. Let's go to the latest revelations of Hunter Biden's emails. This is an issue that the media is doing everything they possibly can to hide from us. All right. So we're not just talking the mainstream media anymore. Now we're talking, of course, big tech and Twitter and Facebook. They're doing everything they can to hide this from as many people as possible. It's not working. That never works in a network society. We've talked about this before. They try. Do you remember when Tommy Robinson got arrested and the British judiciary put they put a mum, a gag order on all the media. The media weren't allowed to report on it. And so what did Brits do? Brits all went to American media or Australian media or Canadian media. This is the futility of trying to, ban things in a network society. There's always going to be somewhere you can find out about it, somewhere on the internet. So this is absurd. It's dumb what the media is trying to do. And we're beginning now to see this drip, drip, drip. Gang, this isn't even 3, 4, 5 days old, and it's already throwing this campaign into utter chaos. I mean, the Biden campaign is just sputtering out of control in many respects. Here's the latest from the New York Post. Now, you may have heard of this, but just in case you haven't, we're going to give you the latest info here. So Hunter Biden, this is from New York Post, Hunter Biden pursued lucrative deals involving China's largest private energy company, including one that he said would be interesting for me and my family, emails obtained by the Post show. One email sent to Biden on May 13th, 2017, with the subject line, expectations, included details of remuneration packages for 6 people involved in an unspecified business venture. Biden was identified as, so that's Hunter, as chair, vice chair, depending on agreement with CEFC, an apparent reference to the former Shanghai-based conglomerate CFC China Energy Company. His pay was pegged at $850K. And the email also noted that Hunter has some office expectations he will elaborate. In addition, the email outlined a provisional agreement under which 80% of the equity or shares in the new company would be split equally among 4 people whose initials correspond to the sender and 3 recipients, with H apparently referring to Biden. The deal also listed 10 Jim and then 10 held by H for the big guy. Now, neither Jim nor the big guy was identified any further in the email. The email's author, James Gillier of the international consulting firm J2CR, also noted, quote, I am happy to raise any detail with Zhang if there is shortfalls, close quote. Zhang is reference to the former executive of CFC. So what we seem to have here is that Biden's history with China seems to now involve some kickback, some actual financial gain. So the biggest part of this, of course, is if the big guy is Joe Biden, and if he actually got money from this deal back in 2013, 2014. Well, it looks like we now know it was Joe Biden. This is from Fox News, just out. One of the people in an explosive email thread allegedly involving Hunter Biden has corroborated. So one of the people received the email, has corroborated the veracity of the messages, which appear to outline a payout for former Vice President Joe Biden as part of a deal with a Chinese energy firm. One email dated May 13th, 2017, and obtained by Fox News, forgive me, so it's going back to 2017, includes a discussion of remuneration packages for 6 people in a business deal with a Chinese energy firm. The email appeared to identify Hunter Biden as chair, vice chair, depending on the agreement with CEFC. The email includes a note that Hunter has some office expectations. A proposed equity split references 20 for H and 10 held by H for the big guy, with no further details. Fox News spoke to one of the people who was copied on the email, who confirmed its authenticity. Sources told Fox News that the big guy is a reference to the former vice president. There you go. There you go. Now, remember, this is, I mean, whenever you hear the skepticism, well, I don't know, Chris Wallace, well, I don't know about this. I'm a little skeptical over it. Where was all the skepticism for 3 years when we're talking about Russian collusion? Where was it? Unnamed source this, anonymous source that. It was leaked today from FBI who said blah, 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 blah. And now all of a sudden, well, what we've got here, without question, it seems to me, is a smoking gun. And Biden is going to have to answer for this. If sources are now coming out who received the email and are coming out and saying, yes, the big guy is reference to Hunter Biden's dad. That was Joe Biden. Yes, he was getting a kickback from this illicit deal. This campaign's over. I mean, if that is what happened, and if that comes out, and if Biden's campaign is going to have to deal with that, and the media is going to have to deal with it, this campaign is over. And that is why the media is trying to keep a gag order on this. This is why they're blacking it out. Now, let me ask you a question. And again, it's another thing to think through. If Joe Biden really were up 14 points over Donald Trump, if he were really ready to beat Trump at a bigger blowout than FDR beat Herbert Hoover, then why is the media so afraid of this story? Why won't the mainstream media cover it up? Why don't they have the confidence that Trump had? Remember back in 2016 during the primaries, I could shoot somebody in the streets and I'll still win. In other words, he was just saying there was so much enthusiasm for him. It just doesn't matter what he does. They're going to push him over the finish line. If Biden has twice that kind of enthusiasm, then what are they afraid of? Go ahead and address this. Right? This is your man. He's going to restore integrity back to the office, right? He's going to heal us and reunite us as a people, right? That's all we hear from the mainstream media in the midst of all their little puffball questions that they throw to him in the interview. It's just so cute watching, Joe Biden with his little plastic bat trying to hit those little lobs that George Stephanopoulos gives him. Who's such a shit. I mean, it's just. Again, we did a video the other day that Trump has absolutely broken the mainstream media. And he's broken the mainstream media in the sense that he's broken it open. Everyone could see what shills they are. Everyone can see how enslaved our free media is to left-wing liberalism. Everyone could see how partisanized they've gotten. So that's the beauty of this here. So one question comes up. I mean, if Biden is up 14 points over Trump, why is the media so afraid of the story? Why won't the mainstream media cover? Why won't Facebook and Twitter just freely let people share it? They're going to have to at some point. This is, especially with the latest revelations now, we're no longer dealing with Hunter Biden profiting off of his dad and his dad making it so that he can continue to profit off of the vice president office by getting special prosecutors fired who are looking into the corrupt dealings of businesses that Hunter Biden is involved in. Not only are we seeing that now with these latest revelations about the big guy, now Biden himself is intimately involved in making money on this scheme here. So if that's the case, if that is what is happening, the media is going to have to cover it. There's just no way around it. Fox is doing it. The British press is doing it. We're doing it. Of course, alt media is doing it. As long as there is enough, shall we say, inertia just behind this story. And then when you add the cover up by the media, that just brings in a whole new level of intrigue. It's really, really impressive. All right, over to you guys. Anything you want to chat about really quick? Let me take my sip of my lovely coffee here. I fell in love with espresso. So this is espresso with cream and water added to it. So it's an Americano, technically. I guess we're wimpy. We can't do it. I fell in love with espresso going to Brazil and going to Italy. That's the result of that's the result of loving culture, loving your nation, your culture, custom, and tradition is a net positive. We have studies that find that those who love their culture tend to love other cultures. And I have never loved tasting a culture as much as Brazil and Italy. How are we doing, guys? I'm seeing lots of stuff here. Hey, guys, good to see you. Yes. More. What else? Yeah, 10,000 watching. Yeah, we got 11,000 watching now. Greek coffee is great. I saw that quick. Yes. So I go to a Greek church. So I get periodically, we'll get some nice, really good coffee. Unfortunately, most of the time, it's just drip. I hate drip coffee. But, oh, it's going too fast. I can't see too much here, guys. So let's see. What do we got? Love Greek coffee. Amen to that. Yeah. So I want you guys, I mean, I think the big takeaway from this is absolutely do not be complacent. Absolutely do not be complacent. We've got to get out there and vote. Vote in person, make your vote count, right? Don't trust the mail-in ballot. Well, I mean, do whatever you got to do, but just vote. But having said that, make sure you recognize that there is something radically wrong with the opinion polling that's coming out there. And the Biden campaign recognizes that. That's a huge takeaway from this, okay? There's something radically wrong. We have seen a bit. Steve Deace has done some deep dives into the methodologies, and they're absolutely corrupt. They're absurdly corrupt in terms of they're contaminated, quite literally, in terms of the poll results that we're getting. I think the fundamental thing is not so much to discourage us. I think it's fundamentally to discourage donors. They want this huge money gap between, the Bloomberg financed Democratic Party. And again, it looks like Bloomberg is falling apart there. He's dumping $100 million in Florida, and every poll is showing Trump trouncing Biden in Florida, especially the latest one with the voter registration, where they're outnumbering by around 140,000 votes. So there's going to be another waste of his money. He doesn't care. What has he got? 60 bill, 100 million's nothing to him. So they want to keep this massive dollar advantage over the Republican Party. And so I think these votes are intended ultimately to really just discourage donors when all's said and done, and to discourage us. But they know they're not going to stop us. They know 60 million people are going to come out and vote for Trump no matter what. That's and I would say a sizable majority, and again, that's anecdotal. I don't have actual evidence for it, but a sizable majority of never Trumpers are now coming out to vote for Trump big time. I know several of them who said, well, one guy wrote for the Federalist, I was a never Trumper in 2016. I will crawl through glass. I will crawl on broken glass in order to vote for Trump now. So we're seeing some wonderful things. Are you guys familiar too? You might want to do a quick search for it. There's a Catholic priest out there who does about a 20-minute sermon on the election. It's going to blow your mind. Does anyone know that? Maybe somebody can, if you go on YouTube and you just put Catholic priest, 2020 election, or Catholic priest Biden, why Biden is bad. It is a fantastic sermon on how that Father Altman, is that it? Father Altman, Altman, check it out. Right. So get ready for your Sunday morning worship by listening to this. It will blow if our churches, see, this is the advantage that the Russian Orthodox Church has over us. If our churches were actually proclaiming the fundamentally conservative vision of life that then gets going in our politics and in our schooling, in our education, in our law and the like, will be unstoppable. But pastors are so reticent to bring up politics in the pulpit because they're so scared it's going to divide their congregation. And it's just a tragedy to see. 501c3 tax status, I don't think has anything to do with it. I think in many ways they're just very cowardly when all is said and done. This priest is not. He will blow your mind. So again, I think it was as Altman, Altman. Check him out. He is amazing. Did you watch Trump is Turley Greek or I am. I got a question. Are you Greek Orthodox? I am converted 14 years ago. And did I see Trump in Georgia's rally? I have not seen it. But I can only imagine. I bet it was absolutely amazing. You know, he lands Air Force One right in front of you, right in front of the crowd, and then it comes around and it taxis. You're outside and sort of this, what do you even call it? Hangar, airport hangar. And he comes on over. When Trump wins, the Dems go, okay, well, I'll talk about that. And he comes on over, and then they announce him, ladies and gentlemen, 45th president of the United States, and the door swings open, and he comes down the steps, and he comes in dancing to YMCA and all that. People are going nuts. This guy absolutely knows how to make an entrance. All right, what should we expect is going to happen once Trump wins? Again, do not be complacent, but do not believe these polls. 91% chance at re-election. So we're going into that, going into this election, pumped up, ready to storm those polls. What's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen on November 4th. I really don't. If Trump wins, I think the left is just going to flip out. I do. I just think they're going to flip out. If Trump wins, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know. Right now, they've been more or less reduced to destroying themselves. They destroy their own urban environments, right? Their own cities. They try to get out into the suburbs, but then they get met with one of or a combination of over 500 armed militias that are out there ready to go, right? Stand down and stand by. I'm so funny. So I don't know. I think if Biden were, there is a 9% chance Biden will win. If Biden wins, and if it looks like it's a totally legit win, conservatives are going to do what conservatives have always done. We're going to get on with our lives. This channel is going to get back focusing on the trends going on, conservative trends going on all over the world. We're going to get ready for 2022, which will probably be the biggest bloodbath, landslide victory we've ever seen for the GOP in the off-year elections and the midterms. We're going to get on with our lives. We're going to get on with our families, and we're going to get on with the most important things in the world, because we don't make politics our religion. Christ is the center of our lives, or at least I know for many of you, just a very Christian-based kind of life is going to be the basis of what's important. We're not going to burn things down. We're not going to destroy things down. Now, if Trump loses and it looks like the Democrats blatantly stole the election, again, all bets are off. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. We're going to have to see. So, all right, guys, it's great seeing you on a Saturday. And get ready to go out there and just storm the polls. Biden is very nervous. It's starting to show. He's snapping at reporters. The media is doing everything they can to hide this stuff, but they can't. It's getting out there. It's getting reported, and people want to know more and more. Can the media continue to bury negative stories on Biden until the election? I think they're going to try. But I just don't think they did with Hillary. They did everything they could with Hillary. And then the October surprise with Comey, when he said, yeah, she broke the law, but she didn't. or so what? Big deal. Again, the media spun that in every way they possibly could, and it didn't work. People knew that she was a disaster. And they're seeing Biden as infinitely worse. All right, guys. So we're going to have to call it a day. Make sure you get your merch here. My Sleepy Joe t-shirt. That's our special Sleepy Joe. We're not going to be making them anymore after November 4th. We won't need to, right? He can go back to his basement and go back to sleep. So make sure you get some cool merch and make sure you register for our On the Brink virtual conference 2 weeks from today. I'd love to meet you there online. And we're going to do a deep dive in terms of the rise of a new conservative age, what to expect on November 3rd, which will just be literally 3 days after that day, that night. So let's definitely get together with that as well. Make sure to register down below. All right, guys, God bless. We'll see you. See you on Monday. Take care.